Welcome to Check Your Understanding for 5.1b, Simulations. A basketball player announcer suggests that a certain player is a streaky shooter. That is, the announcer believes that if the player makes a shot, the player is more likely to make the next shot. As evidence, the announcer points to a recent game where the player took 30 shots and had a streak of 10 made shots in a row. Is this convincing evidence of streaky shooting by the player? Assume that this player makes 50% of the shots and that the results of a shot don't depend on the previous shots. Describe how you carry out a simulation to estimate the probability that a 50% shooter who takes 30 shots in a game would have a streak of 10 or more made shots. So we need to simulate this player making a shot, and it should be a 50% chance of either a make or a miss. So you could use a random number generator, either picking a 0 or a 1, or you could have evens be making it or odds missing it, but let's flip a coin. Let's flip a coin 30 times, assign heads to make the shot, tails to miss. Record whether or not there are 10 heads in a row. Remember, when you run a simulation, you need to talk about how you're going to simulate it with the right probabilities and what you're assigning the numbers or the faces of a die to be. Mark what you are recording after each run of the simulation. So we're recording whether or not there are 10 heads in a row. Do this many times to estimate what percent of the time there is a streak. So that's what you're estimating. The dot plot displays the results of 50 simulated games in which this player took 30 shots, and they actually recorded the longest streak in the simulated game. So it wasn't that they had 10 or more, it's just like, what was the longest streak? How many in a row? Remember, there's a 50% chance they would make it in, and this is the streaks. So you expect them to make 15 out of 30, but as far as it being in a row, that's a different calculation. Explain what the two dots above the 9 indicate. So there were 2 trials that resulted in 9 consecutive made shots. Each one of these dots represents having flipped a coin 30 times and recording the longest streak that was observed. So a lot of work went into this simulation, a lot of coin flipping, because each dot represents one trial, which involves 30 shots, and then recording the longest streak. What conclusion would you draw about whether this player was streaky? So they made 10 in a row. Well, how often did that happen in this simulation where we're assuming that 50%? And we only observed 10 in a row once. Never was 11, never was more than that. It only happened once. From the 50 simulated trials, there was only 1 out of 50 that was a streak of 10 or more consecutive shots, which is 2%. From this simulation, we conclude that there's approximately, very important, it's not definite, this probability, an approximately 2% chance that the player will hit 10 or more shots in a row. This means it is not likely to happen by chance. So we do have convincing evidence that that player is streaky. Having 10 in a row under the simulation happened less than 5% of the time, and that's our significance level. If something is only going to happen by random chance less than 5% of the time, that gives us evidence that this is unusual. Something's going on here. So that's evidence to say the player was streaky. Thank you for